Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, Rostermania officially back on the menu. We've got the contract sign gifts hitting the timeline last night and big rumours as to which teams are potentially going to make a change. Vancouver Surge, top of the list as it stands, but according to the rumours on which replacements they're looking for, some of the other tweets in the timeline imply there are other roster changes afoot. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Shame there isn't a scoreboard attached, unfortunately, to this one. Quick talk on dealership and the maps in the game right now. They've added bounty. Most people seem to say that ain't really worth its time, right? That might need to go. There's also a couple of like that Cypher gun or whatever it is in ranked at the moment. Treyarch like to put things in ranked, see how they play, see maybe what the pros think. But yeah, obviously Glowfrosty and some other pros have been playing it. Glowfrosty is now a member of the academy for the Vegas Falcons. There's a big talk about whether they might just put him in the starting roster. It may be an inevitability. I think there's also talk about whether that, Saudi team needs to, because if, let's say Exnid or something, if he learns better English, then, he might be very well positioned to have a, let's say an international team. That maybe is one of the limitations, because I think there's a feeling that what Falcons might like to do is have, at least what might actually be a good idea for them, is to have like one or maybe two of their Saudi players that they've brought up who are the most talented playing with some, maybe one or two more experienced players and some other talent from, North America, Europe, wherever. That's not so easy as it stands, but I don't know what they're going to change, if anything at all. But yeah, Frosty says, if the Jackal is nerfed, or if they GA it to some degree, they GA the barrel or whatever, because the game is definitely leaning right now towards more SMG players. We know Dashy's been very vocal about this, that he wants something to be done to make it so that the Jackal isn't getting ran everywhere, and right now, fair enough, certainly online, that is going to be the case on a map like Dealership. So he reckons that map could actually work for Hardpoint. I personally think they might need to think about where the hardpoint locations are. They could move them around a bit, but I think that it's potentially a map. I mean, Vault Hardpoint, it's fun to watch and it's not bad to play, but it's maybe not the best map. And there's other maps as well. Skyline maybe isn't massively liked. Weirdly enough, Red Card, despite kind of being a pub map, because of the way the spawns work and everything, it actually isn't bad at all for competitive compared to some of the other ones. Just an update here from Doug sent to Martin as well. You guys saw the other day, I mentioned it, that Doug lost his world record. And JCat was like, yo, come back, get his trade and whatever. But Doug says, look, if I tried it for a second time, and I also like how Doug, he doesn't say try, he just says that he's going to do it, right? Like, he's not, oh, if I tried to get the record a second time, he's like, no, if I did the record a second time and, like, I got it, because I would, like, I do like that, like, just the way he thinks, I think is kind of interesting. I wouldn't be doing it for pure intentions though, and I also wouldn't really learn anything else about myself. So I think Doug has got other plans, let's just put it that way, in terms of what he is planning to do next, maybe from a record perspective. But let's talk about some Rostermania stuff, because of course Doug is also working with the Boston Breach and their roster that may or may not want to consider some sort of a change. Simp's birthday is today. Happy birthday to Simp, turning 24 today. One of the, I mean, I don't want to say veterans of the league, but like, the average age of the league, Simp is now, I mean, look, he's been around a very long time, so it's understandable, but still, Simp has been around the Call of Duty world for well over half of his life, I'd probably say, when he probably first picked up the sticks. But yeah, I feel like just yesterday I joined the League 18 and cracked back in BO4, and has done rather a lot since then. If he continues competing for another 4 or 5 years, there's, it's absolutely the possibility that he goes down as the greatest ever. I know that Simp has talked about that himself before, that he wants people to look back on his teams when he was competing during this period and say, those guys were the greatest ever. Now, that's still a long way to go in my opinion, but look, if FaZe come out and they dominate this season, for example, given how competitive the league currently is with theoretically the top teams, that would be a serious accomplishment. Now, we have some lineman cards to go through, starting with of course, the Boston Breach. These are their cards this stage. Their Search and Destroy was 7 and 10. Their Control was 3 and 7, which was not a good mode for them. And their Hardpoint, though, 11 and 7, so pretty good in that one. Now, their cards are as follows. Snoopy was very good. I will say, Awakening, given that his KD isn't that great, his actual impact, certainly when you talk about damage per 10 and, in search and destroy especially, has actually been rather good. Like, he's got an 82 rating, significantly higher than Cammy. So I think that's where the difficulty lies, because Cammy started the stage quite well. Awakening finished it, though, far better, and Cammy had some stinkers in there. Certainly Cammy's Search and Destroy was pretty horrific this stage. In fact, his most recent few Search and Destroy performances were, 0.3, 0.5, 0.1, like, it was rough. And, that is obviously a pretty tough moment when they had an opportunity to, they probably should have, in their opinion anyway, beaten Cloud9, get to top 8, and at that point they had a very makeable bracket through the tournament to even get, let's be honest here, Heretics got top 3, Ravens got top 4. Like, that is a result that Boston feel like was absolutely attainable, but they couldn't win the game 5 against Cloud9. The loss against FaZe, okay, whatever, like, what are you going to do against FaZe? Not many teams can compete there. Thought it was interesting to note as well, though, that Snoopy is purple in his role for kills per 10 and hard points. So, better than all the other SMGs this stage in that category, and even Hill time for his SMGs was right up there as well. So, yeah, Snoopy's looking very good. Awakening's card is better than I thought it would be. Snoopy and Purge are a good duo, and okay, Purge's control is pretty horrific, which is something to note, but it's not like Snoopy's is great either from like a kills and, damage to round perspective. So lots of Boston to work on, lots of them to think about, but equally, does this justify a change? As I said the other day, if I could get Pred and Pred wants to join me and I can, replace Purge with Pred, I'll probably do it. Is that going to happen? No. And Cammy, right? Look, I rate Cammy. I think that he can do well, but, his search was awful, and if he doesn't lock in fast, then you gotta think that this team might look at maybe an Illy or someone like that, just with a bit of a better search and destroy performance, who might come in instead. So I don't think they're going to make a move, but they may. It's absolutely not impossible. There's even, the potential for someone like Tyler Fellow, and we're going to discuss him in a second. This, though, is the Surge team. They came top 12. Online, they're actually all right. They went 4-3. They turned up to LAN, and it was, of course, a very, very different story indeed. So, yeah, Abuzah, he wasn't great this stage, and his search and destroy was horrific, 0.7, but apart from that, he was actually alright. Again, kills per 10, damage per 10, in terms of impact in the respawn modes, Abuzah was still up there. 04 I still thought was pretty good. Nastie, the 68 rating I feel like feels a little bit harsh. I feel like he was okay this stage. Hicksy, though, unfortunately, 0.79 in hard points is a number that's difficult to look past. Nowadays in COD, Hicksy, unfortunately for Hicksy, right, he's a player that if you put him on that Toronto team as he was on it a couple of years ago, when he's got lots of talent around him, he's a great player to, bring those guys up. I think Hicksy, in some respects, is like the absolute perfect substitute. Like, if you're a top team, even a FaZe, an OpTic, a Toronto, like a Thieves, one of these top teams, Hicksy's a great sub, because if you need him, then he's going to come in and deliver a good job. Unfortunately for those top teams, from a pure talent perspective, they would prefer to stack talent, and on the teams that are weaker, they often need a bit more firepower. So I think for Hicksy it's tough, and according to the rumours, they are going to be looking to make a change here. I think also on a different game, it might have been a different story, but on this specific title, when it's all about pace, it's a lot about slaying, like, teamwork is obviously always a big factor, but it's not the same teamwork as we saw a couple of years ago. It's more like, hit, trade, chow, pace, that type of stuff that maybe doesn't suit Hicksy quite as well. But it's not like Nastie's been great either. So there's a couple of options that this team needs to consider. The most notable thing, obviously, for this team for me is that they literally had Huke, right? Like, they had Huke and aBeZy on this team. They dropped aBeZy for Nastie, they dropped Huke for Hicksy, and now they're probably looking to get a player like Huke. But unfortunately, they dropped him, so he's now gone to OpTic. I saw this going around here from Massacre, kind of discussing some of the changes that these teams may look to make, talking about Encourage, talking about Illy, talking about Johnny and Lunas, and some other options as well the teams would consider. I don't know about this whole Dilla Rex on Ravens thing, but whatever, like, people are going to have their opinions. The notable thing was from last night, though, this one from Fella. So we're back at it again. Here we are in the first roster change real time of the season, and Fellow is signing a contract. Of course, his team has been dominating lately in challenges. The interesting thing about this, though, is, we'll come back to it in a second, is because according to Ronnie, who put this article out on Breaking Point yesterday, Surge are weighing up SMG options to replace Hicksy. I do find it funny, as I say, maybe it's not funny, but another Rambo Ray masterclass, that they dropped Huke. Now, I know that Rambo and Huke, they never really got along. I don't know, they never really seemed to see eye to eye. It was the same on Dallas back in the Cold War days. Last year maybe was the same story, I don't know. But the funny thing is that they are replacing Huke for Hicksy. That's what they decided to do. It didn't work, clearly. They're now considering replacing him for players that they'd love to put Huke back. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of where Huke is on OpTic right now, like, that would be the ideal player if Rambo and Huke could, get along with the way that they want to approach the game. But instead, they're looking at players who are kind of like Huke, but not quite Huke, I suppose. Neptune is probably the chief candidate. He has been cooking up in challenges. I think he does deserve another shot in the league, although I'm a bit concerned that, if it doesn't work out for him again, it's probably over for him. But still, he has been doing well in challenges, probably earned another opportunity to give it a go. And I think on this game, he could be particularly good. Afro, I'd love to see in the team as well. We know that, well, I made my thoughts clear last year at the start of the Los Angeles Thieves team that I thought that Afro was the right move. I think that he had the ceiling necessary, but unfortunately, the respawns just wasn't delivering. But, he's said himself, and other people have said as well, that lots of, distractions or whatever was going on in his personal life, that's now changed, and he's fully looked into Call of Duty again. And the talent of this kid, absolutely undeniable, and I'm not going to stop talking about it, because when he's on, he can be one of the absolute best SMGs in the game. To be fair, maybe so can Neptune. On this title, there's some debate there. But Afro's in Europe, he's been cooking in European challenges. Maybe European challenges, though, not so competitive as North American challenges. You've got to take that into consideration. And then also, you've got to consider that visas and some of these other things. But then again, they've got Nastie and Hicksy out there, so maybe not so much of a big deal. So intuit your thoughts on that in the comments below, which way you'd go. I don't really think it massively matters. I think that either player is probably a good idea and could work for the team. Putting Afro and Nastie back together, kind of like the idea of that. They've had some good success together in the past. But, Neptune may be considered the chief candidate there. Intuit your thoughts in the comments below on that one. But coming back to the Fellow thing, right? Because, well, you'd imagine that if, let's say, Neptune is getting his deal done maybe to Surge, then Fellow ain't going to Surge. Where's Fellow going, right? That is the question as it stands. And there's a couple of teams that are deserving of mention in this case. Of course, we discussed Boston, which is maybe not a complete impossibility, but I think there's a couple of other teams that are also worthy of merit. Teams maybe that need a bit of leadership. The team that, first really came to mind might be the Minnesota Rocker, right? Because that team, Estriel, Nero, Geo, good trio. I think they've still got things to work on. Paulex did not deliver online, and if they want it, and online he was better, but it's not like he took over the tournament, for example. Fellow is a guy with a lot of leadership, a lot of experience, and actually even from a pure KD perspective has been frying in challenges over the last couple of months. So Fellow going in there might make some sense. The other option, I guess, is Cloud9. It's not impossible that after what happened at the Major, Kremp and Mack are likely to stay, Sib is very likely to stay, Attach has been very underwhelming. Then again, would Accuracy actually make the move to drop his boy like that? I don't know, maybe not. So tweet your thoughts in the comments. Where is Fellow going? And, what next for a number of these teams? Because there's even, of course, the likes of Gentlemates. They came top 12 as well. There's a couple of other teams that might consider a potential change. So, but Fellow signed the deal, which is interesting because, it's only a few days after the Major. So either Fellow only had one offer, or he had a couple of offers and it was clear which one he wanted to go for, or, who really knows? Maybe it was in a discussion even before the tournament came to a conclusion. So tweet your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Thought this was a nice trip down memory lane as well. It was 2 years ago today, basically, when Zinni officially announced his retirement from competitive Call of Duty in front of the Boston fans in Boston. And then he said at the end of it, the future is green, and people were like, oh, wonder what that means. And then he turned up on OpTic not that long after that. The other quick thing on Rostermania was this, that I just forgot to mention here from Matt. Pred, I don't think this VOD is available, so hopefully someone can go back and find it somehow. But Pred was on stream just a few hours ago as I'm recording this, watching the process from Champs and like tearing up about it, reminiscing about it, getting emotional about it, and apparently said, "Don't worry, chat, I'll be back soon." There was also some rumors that he's going to be at Major 2 because I think OpTic are planning to like give the rings out to their World Championship winning team at Major 2 in Dallas, and they want Pred to be there. So whether Pred's come back to OpTic, doubtful in my opinion. But whether Pred comes back full stop, you know, he says he'll be back very soon. That presumably is with another team. So very much interested to your thoughts in the comment section below because, you know, we've talked about Fellow, we've talked about Neptune, we've talked about Afro. Pred did say, after what happened back in December, a return to the CDL after Major 1 was his target. Here we are, we're after Major 1. Like, what conversations has he had? Will he be back soon? Are we going to see the Pred contract signing thing hit the timeline in the coming days? I don't really know. But very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.